But in the end, that meeting in Apalachin was a disaster.
Yep.
Yeah. Not so much for Vito, because Vito really didn't get indicted off of that.
Yeah.
Some of the others did. And that soured them towards him. So, there was that animosity. So Vito really, I think, screwed himself. He just didn't listen. He was so head-bent and hell-bent on being the top that he did stupid things. And of course, one of the main stupid things was, I think, this involvement in this drug operation. Now, there's a school of thought that said Vito really was framed. That case, if you look at the evidence, really was kind of thin on Vito.
Yeah.
It was one conversation, and you could take that conversation anyway.
Yeah.
But in the end, they found that he was part of the conspiracy, and that was the end of that.
Now, what do you think about the reason for the Apalachin meeting was? What do you think was on the agenda? I'm going to give you my little kind of conspiracy theory, but what was the main reason for that meeting, in your opinion?
Well, I think there are a few reasons.
Yeah.
Vito wanted to be anointed as sort of the head boss in New York. I also think they wanted to discuss the situation with Anastasia's murder.
Yeah.
I also think that there was some, possibility that they were going to divide up or deal with this drug issue. I think that's in there someplace.
Yeah.
They had a pre-meeting out in New Jersey at the Boot Boyardo's house out in
Livingston.
Yeah, and a grand sort of Transylvanian-looking castle. And they had a pre-meeting, and this is where they tried to, I think, talk about not doing Appalachia.
Oh,
but in the end, it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
And I think they sort of set the agenda at that meeting.
Interesting.
It would have nice to been a fly on the wall,
Yeah, I was going to say. Well, the Genovese, always not only were the strongest or even the strongest to this day, but the strongest in the country. And you're one of the few people that we align, at least on part of the agenda, where I believe there was a meeting in 1957 in Sicily between Luciano, I think Genovese might have been there, Tommaso Buscetta from the other side.
Oh, right. That was the in Sicily at the Grand Hotel
meeting.
Yeah.
And I think it was, but Joe Bonanno and the Sicilians were there and with the Sicilian Americans or Italian Americans saying, okay, great. You guys are going to give us, the heroin. You guys are going to refine it here, France and so forth. You guys are going to get it to us. We got 26 cities and we had it mapped out, right? I kind of alluded to that earlier. And I think Apalachin was going to be the cementing of that distribution network. Not to say we're not going to deal in drugs, but to say, okay, hey, San Jose, Cerrito family, you guys are going to get this. Lanza and San Fran, you guys are going to get that. And then we're going to kind of work out all the logistics of taking over. They kind of already control the heroin trade at that point, but I think they're going to formalize it based off that meeting in 57. I feel pretty strongly about that. I know it's all empiric evidence. You know what I mean? I'm like hard evidence.
No, I mean, there's, you can make a convincing case, I think, that was so. Like I said, I wish we had a fly on a wall, you can put things together in sequence and think that one led to the other, but we don't really know.
True.
That's the problem. That's always the mystery in this stuff, and the challenge in putting these stories together.
Now, I've met different kind of authors. I have, or maybe academics. So, for example, one comes to mind. Antonio Nicasso is very big on the Italian scene, and he's a worldwide thought leader. I had him on the podcast, and he said something that really stuck out to me. He goes, I asked him who you were on dinner with. He said Matteo Massimo Denaro, which makes sense because he's a fugitive. But also, I'm like, well, don't you as part of your research and who you are? Because even me as a podcast, I get people always sending me message, some intel, that kind of stuff. I said, you don't get intel or you don't get debriefed or people don't reach out to you. He keeps it at arm distance, right? He just really likes to look at it from the pure academic sense to keep it arm distance. Where other people like to kind of get into the muck. Where do you land on that? Because you've been a successful writer, and I see both sides of it. Where did you kind of land in your career?
Well, I tried to talk to some of these people, knowing full well I'm going to get self-serving answers.
Yep.
And okay, that's your response to this, blah, blah. Okay, all right. But I also, because with people like Costello and Genovese, they're dead.
Yeah.
I went back and I found their words in depositions, which were little noticed, and proceedings, court proceedings, and interrogatories. And I was able to really sort of get, bring them alive a little bit in their own words.
Yeah.
So I try to, I think it's okay to talk to people.
Yeah.
The subject, but you got to realize, you're going to get their spin.
Yeah.
Some people don't like to get down and talk to these people for